been 39 years, and thank God we've won enough, because that's always
That they
a
like you, they're happy with
prerequisite. Even my mom gets mad when we lose, but it's been pretty good marriage.
Do you ever get tired of people saying, oh my God, Tom, I was here when you were here doing this. I was here whenever. I mean, it feels like Michigan State, thousands and thousands of alums like me are walking around there and feel like they connect with you every single time.
That's because you're making me older than I even am. That's the problem, when you've been here a long time. I mean, from my GA days on, it's been 39 years. And, so I came here a couple years after college and just left for Tulsa for like 6 weeks. Otherwise, I've been here the whole time. And so I've been here through your era and a lot of other eras.
Of course. And everyone feels like they know you. Is that kind of strange for you?
No, it's kind of exactly what I want. I'm from the UP where, everybody is, you know everybody in the UP. They say, well, you know where this town is? Well, of course I know where that town is. There's not that many towns up there. But then when I came to a school like this, to me, Michigan State's a blue-collar university, And when I looked at different jobs, and I always thought, could I go to the pros? I always said, I'd miss out on the football Saturdays, jogging around campus, spending time on campus. I think I'm a people person, so maybe they gravitate to me, maybe I gravitate to them. And thank God we've won enough, because that's always
that they like
a
you, they're happy with
prerequisite.
you.
Somewhat.
Exactly.
Somewhat. Even my mom gets mad when we lose, so somewhat. But it's been pretty good marriage.
Yeah, you said even when the season stops, you don't stop. I mean, when do you ever get a break or a breath?
It sounds like you're complaining, and I'm not, but these new rules that you've heard about, the transfer portal or this, I mean, there's just never a time when you're off anymore. And like this is finals week here, so we're definitely not off this week. We're off of recruiting, but it's the most important time for your players. You remember back to finals week?
Absolutely. It makes me sweat a little bit to think about it right now.
I don't blame you, because it was, and it hasn't changed much. It's still tough finals week, but that's when you really get to spend some time with your players and see them be successful. And then Friday and Saturday are special days here. Like I haven't missed, I don't think, a graduation of one of my players in all these years, 28 years as head coach. And you see some of them that came in and you kind of said, do they have a chance to graduate? Better yet, they didn't think they had a chance to graduate. And when they walk across that stage and hold that thing up, that is a awesome day for me.
So did you say, yes, we did it again. We got someone over the finish line, but you've had these young men come through like this for so many years.
Yeah, and that's, I guess, what's awesome for me, is that I see them, as we say, go from boys to men, although I don't know if they're men at 22, as I've learned later on in life, but I've also seen them grow academically, I've seen them grow athletically, and I've seen a lot of them grow socially, which some of them needed to be honest.
So the week is important also because it's graduation, but this has been a hell of a year for the university.
Yeah, it's we put together 5 or 6 years, when you go back and then you got COVID and you got all the things that have happened here. It's been an interesting 4 or 5 years, and then the tragedy in February was, it hits so home, especially when you have a son here. You have a son in college, or daughter in college. I'm sorry, and it hits home a little differently. You take off your coach hat, and you put your parent hat on, which you're kind of a parent when you're a coach, but you know what I'm saying, and it hits directly home. My son was in front of the building picking up his girlfriend.
He was at the Union.
Yeah, and they whisked him off, told him to get off, and you get a call that he's bunkered down with a couple of people here because nobody knew what was going on, and when you've been at a place this long, you kind of look at it as not my university, but our university. It's not just a place I went to work at. So that even hits home a little bit more.
Would you say that you're a bit of the father figure of the university? When you came out and you spoke 2 days after the shooting, you seemed to be the person that people wanted to hear from.
Michigan State is my home. Everyone thinks I'm a Yooper. Yes, that's where I came from. But virtually all of my adult life, I've been a Spartan. I've seen some incredible highs. And yes, unfortunately, there have been some devastating lows. But as a Spartan, we always get through it together. We're Spartan tough, Spartan strong. If you need proof, look at us all standing here tonight. Each and every one of us. We've come for many different reasons. To heal, to grieve, to honor our victims, to stand up to fear, but you're going to have to do a lot in your life. Whatever you're feeling, it's all valid.
That's a privilege. When you say that, that hits home. I mean, put it this way, I would embrace that. It's not a burden, it's a privilege. And it's because I've spent time here, but I think I do relate to them. And then I've gone the full circle, you know. My family was raised here. My 2 kids went to school here. And so I can look at it as an employee, as a coach, and then as a parent. And when I thought about what I wanted to say that night, and my SID, Matt Larson, and I, we sat down, Mex, I normally go off the cuff a little bit more.
Right.
But it was one of those things I wanted to at least have some bullet points, because instead of giving the Newt Rockne speech, let's go, let's get back, I was about to do that, and I said, how would I feel if I just lost a son or daughter, if it was mine? And that wouldn't have hit home to me, you know? And so that's why I tried to say what I tried to say, but it was from my heart as a coach, as an employee, as a person who's been here 39 years, and then as a parent. And the parent part was hard to get over.
Yeah, it's a stunning thing. As you see it happen in other places, you never quite think it's going to happen to you.
So true. We do that with a lot of things, right? Something's always going to happen to somebody else. No, it can happen to you. And I think, as hard as it was that night, I was overwhelmed when I got over there. I mean, they asked me to speak at the Rock. You've been to the Rock. I mean, we've all been to the Rock. We all know. Yeah, special place. There's a little something on there, and a few people gather around. And I came walking around the corner, and I looked, and I said, "Oh my God!" The number of people that were there. And as I got up to the podium, kind of, and we sat up there with the governor and the president, and I looked out. There were so many students, but there were so many people from the community. There were professors. There was a 90-year-old lady over here and a 100-year-old guy over here. And you just realize what an impact this has, and how this place is more than just a university and a school. It's part of the capital of our state. It's part of the community. And that made me feel good.
And everyone could visualize where this had happened.
Oh, yeah.
So many people could, whether it's Union, Berkey, and then you there at the Rock. When you stepped up, was it a deep breath and here it goes?
It was. It was a deep breath, because, this day and age, I mean, you have to speak in front of a camera all the time. I just got to make a fool of myself in front of one. I don't always have to speak. And, so many things are right and wrong now, and politically right and wrong. And
you're wanting to set the right tone or say the right thing in a place where sometimes there aren't the right words.
You just hit the nail on the head. And that's what it was. It was, as I said, hey, we got to get up and keep moving forward. There was the Rockne part of the speech. And then there was my God, this just happened it could happen to my son or daughter. My son was outside the door. And I thought of those parents. In fact, I got to meet one of the parent here in our building. She came up for an FBI thing. a meeting, and the parents were unbelievable people, unbelievable. I mean, I could have never done what they did within a month later or whatever it was. And that actually consoled me more than I consoled them. I mean, I just said, wow, what a role model, what a way you're handling this and how you're handling it. But that night, there's no words that are magical. There's no words that can bring anybody back. And so it's just about, have some compassion, have some understanding, have an appreciation for all the people that were there, that were scared and worried, and, could something happen right when we're here? I mean, that's the day and age we live in, unfortunately. Probably the toughest thing, and the one that bothered me as much as anything, was when it happened that night, when I got a call from my son, and we got all our players, and you figure you got everybody safe. And then the next morning, we were not allowed to come back into the buildings, supposedly. And they asked everybody to kind of, even though they had found the guy who did it, could have been more than one. There were other issues. And so I had a team meeting at my house. I asked everybody to come over to my house. And I started it with, I have no idea what to say to you. I have no blueprint. I blame the guy that was here when you were here, Judd Heathcote. I said, he didn't leave me this chapter of the book. I said, but unfortunately, you're going to be more prepared for this than I am, because you're going through it. And that made me sad and mad, that I'm talking to kids, and they're going to be able to talk to their kids and say, yeah, I know how to deal with this a little better because I went through it. What a thing to have to do. And so that morning, when I said it, I kind of like looked in the mirror at myself and said, what are you saying? And it was the truth. And they all looked around and, didn't feel good that they're going to be more experienced than I was at this, understood what I meant.
Yeah.
And that made it easier for me.
To be able to kind of, I think, impart that kind of lesson. And you talk about you're raising kids.
Yeah.
This is what you've done for 28 years as a head coach. But in that moment to say, I'm stepping back kind of as the coach, you might have more of the answers than I do at this point, is a bit of a reversal there.
It was. And I think what most of the people like about me here is I'm honest about it, and not always in some of those press conferences it worked to my advantage, but usually that's what I do. And I wanted them to make sure, no, I'm with you. I'm learning right with you, because I haven't had to go through this, nor should we have to go through this, but these are the cards we're dealt, so we're going to do it together. And that made the age difference even, if that made any sense.
And then to have to go out and do the rest of the season. And now we're at this place. I want to quote back to you something that you said actually 2 days after the shooting at the Rock. You said, we'll promise to remember those that we have lost, and we will find joy again. Mm-hmm. And finding that joy,
well, as you know,
how hard is that?
Yeah, and for us, I mean, we had to play Michigan, our rival, in the next game.
That's right.
And give them credit. They did an unbelievable job for all of us, because I think, like everybody, like I went through, they kind of looked in the mirror and said, hey, this could happen here. Mm-hmm. And it could happen at Northwestern, and it could happen at Ohio State and Duke, and it doesn't matter where. And but still, it's your rival game. You got a couple practices before that are usually pretty lively, and where do you go with it? And I swear I spent a lot of time just thinking, how do I approach things? Because I didn't know. And then I figured out that I got to be me. You can't be phony. And so I made sure that, we talked about the people we lost. I went to the hospital and visited all the kids that were in the hospital. And yet I wanted to make sure our players know that, unfortunately in life, you do got to move on. It's just the way it is, It's helping me think the day I retire. Judd always told me, it's like putting your hand in a bucket of water. Once you pull it out, that's what's left, you know. They're not going to miss you then. And that's okay. I mean, it's time for somebody else. Well, in this, when you lose a life, it's hard to give those same kind of illustrations. So I just said, we've got to, we're going to play these games, and we're going to like reach out and hug 15,000 people. Because I'm probably the opposite of a psychiatrist or psychologist. You know, some people say everybody looks at things differently and everybody deals with them differently.
Right.
But I never, ever, ever figure out how anybody'd want to deal with anything alone. You know, I don't want anybody to be alone when they're going through tough times. I want them to know that I'm going to be there. Our fans are going through tough times, and every one of them I knew were taking it differently. So what could I bring to the table? Well, I could, you know, help play well and bring some joy for, maybe it's only for 2 hours, but it helped the healing process.
Distract.
Yeah, and it helped the healing process. So that's kind of was our battle cry. And yet, even in the pregame talk at Michigan, you know, we're not forgetting the people, because that's when my parent hat went on. And I said, you know, are the parents watching the game tonight? I mean, they're doing something. And I'm saying to myself, as a parent, I wouldn't want them to forget about what happened, but I'd want them to feel good that it was a small way, our way of honoring.
Yeah.
You know, in a very, very small way. But I was told by enough people, I met with some medical people to figure out how to help my players, how to help me. And that was it. You know, you got to start the healing process. And if basketball or my team or players started the healing process, wearing a shirt, if that started, you know, make sure that we were all in this together. And I think that's how I'd want to be through a tragedy. I know you need downtime, and you've dealt with stuff, and I've dealt with stuff, and you need your alone time. Dang, I hope it's not for very long.
Yeah, you need a community. You need to know you aren't alone.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And that's how I came to the realization that it's okay to play a game. It's okay to be the same, you know, even though the pregame, the national anthem, the moment of silence, that was hard. And I think it was hard for my players too. But once that first ref made a bad call, I still jumped him.
You were in it.
I was in it.
You talk about wearing your parent hat. You've had Stephen on the team for the last 4 years. You said it is the most selfish decision that you've made here at Michigan State and the greatest decision that you've made. By far. You know, I've told you, and you can appreciate this, and anybody that works a lot of hours and misses out on, I think I saw 5 of his games his senior year of the 20, you know, you just don't get the stuff because, better choice of words, you're not raising somebody else's kids, but you are raising someone else's kids. And so my wife raised mine, and so it was a long story, but he wasn't, you know, he barely made his high school team. And I thought he'd be a manager here, but he wanted to do what he wanted to do. I told him if he made his team his senior year, I'd give him that chance, thinking he would still turn to the managerial part. But that summer he wanted to work out, he did. My biggest thrill, first game, Madison Square Garden against Kentucky. And there's little Stephen warming up, you know, and I just said, man, it's worth being a coach in the time I missed, because I would have gave my right arm to be in Madison Square Garden warming up instead of Northern Michigan, you know. And it's been everything and more, you know. And he's not taking a scholarship. He's on the Izzo scholarship. And so he's not, you know, it's not anything that he's taken away from anybody else. But the way the players have bonded to him, the way he's growing, because I've always believed that being on a team, I don't care what, the debate team, the band, the cheerleading team, the football team, it doesn't matter. When you're a part of a group of people that the only way they have success is if you do your part,
that's a pretty good thing to learn from. And it's really helped him grow as a person.
What about you guys? Has it helped the two of you together?
Yeah, we still argue, like you do at any of your 18,
being a
19,
parent. I mean, you
and
have to do
20-year-olds,
that.
but we have a couple of rules. My wife's got one rule. What goes on in practice stays there. Because when he was a little kid, he'd come home and say, Mom, Dad used a bad word in practice. Yeah. So, we did all that. I have a rule, what goes on in the locker room stays there. Because the problem with the other players is, is this the coach's snitch, And so, unfortunately for me, he stuck to it to the T. There's a couple times I could have used a little help.
Like a little information would be good
little
here.
info, but he's done a great job of that. The other thing, the last rule was when you're on the floor, I'm your coach. When you're off the floor, I'm your dad. So when I tell him how to shoot a free throw and he still gives me flack, I said, no. Coach had here, dad had over there, I got to differentiate those two. He has not picked that up yet in 4 years. He still argues with me on some of that stuff.
You say you're not a psychologist or have any formal training, but I would think after working with young people for the amount of time that you have, and then going through the year you have had, that you know now how to speak to young people, that you could be a child psychologist in some way, shape, or form.
I think that's true. And I've talked to some psychologists too to figure out how to deal with certain things. Cassius Winston, when he went through that with his brother. I mean, I'm not an expert at everything, and yet where I think I've been good is knowing I'm not an expert and getting some help from other people. But now that I've been through 28 years dealing with people from Africa, from Serbia, from the UP, from the farmlands, from the inner city, I have a better idea on how to handle some things. And yet the tragedy was something new that I wasn't. So every day I'm learning something different. I think that's what keeps me motivated in this job, is I know I don't know everything. And when I start to think I do, somebody punches me right in the nose.
And reminds you, nope.
Yeah,
not yet. We still have something to learn.
But that's good. I think when you stop learning, whether it's your profession or mine, put us out to pasture, it's time to go. So I think I'm more equipped than most, because I say this all the time when I speak, especially corporately. When you have clients in a corporation, as you get older, some of your clients get older, some are younger. Mine are 17 to 22, no matter how old I get. Mine never changes. I've gone through fat ties, skinny ties, tight pants, flare pants, mini skirts, long hair, short hair. I've gone through it all, and I just got to keep adjusting. Music, I got to adjust to the music. I think it keeps me young.
Yeah.
I think it's why I got windows in my office, so I can look out over this beautiful campus and see all the kids that really are going to be our future. And do I get to have some impact? And so we have the camp out. I still camp out with students. It's awesome. Last year there were 1,400 tents. It was just awesome, and those are the impacts you want to make sure those people know someday they got to give back too, because there'll be little eyes watching them too.
So what would you say to the class of 23 graduating this weekend?
I'd say you're as important of a class as we've had in a lot of years, because they've gone through COVID, something that our country never dealt with. Unfortunately, some of them only were in class of the 4 years for a year and a half. You got to go every day, you got to meet new girlfriends, you got to meet a few boyfriends, you got to interact with people.
True campus life.
Our kids didn't get to do that. My kid didn't get to do that. Up in our recruiting lounge, we put an arcade room up there so they wouldn't lay in their rooms, because we were testing every day and still practicing. And we had to find a way to keep them, motivated and engaged. And so I think those kids have been through something that you and I haven't been through. So, you got to look at it that way. I think they've learned, our country has changed a lot. We've had the social injustice we've had all in the last 4 or 5 years. We've had COVID. We've had more tragedies on a lot of campuses. So they're our future, man. You are our future. And somebody in that class is going to be president. Somebody. And I hope we got some good difference makers out of Michigan State, people who can make a difference. But I say to all the graduating classes, whether it be high school graduation or college graduation, you're important because you've done something that the President of the United States didn't go through when he was a student, that you didn't go through and I didn't go through. They're special people. They've made it through it. Now, are they willing to confront the problems and demand that there's change? Can we confront the problems that we all have that aren't right about our world right now? And can we fight to demand that they change? That takes a special person. You're the class that can do it.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, Tom. Let me ask you real quick, expectations next year for basketball. Do you just say, don't even look at that?
No, let's look at it. I mean, I don't want
do you ever look at the pre's and go, oh God, here we go.
You know, the only time I did was last year when we weren't picked in the top 25. I thought, wow. People said, man, there's no pressure on you this year. You got to enjoy that. So the hell with that.
You're ornery about that.
I want pressure. I'm going to probably have it next year, whether we can live up to it. I don't know, I mean, I think the biggest problem that we're all questioning right now, who are you going to have and who is your opponent going to have? And are we really going to know until August with these new screwed up rules? And I'll say it publicly.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm concerned about right now. But the way it looks with my group, we got a lot of guys coming back. I like my team. I like the new guys coming in. It should be a hell of a year here in Spartan Land, and I hope it is.
Can't wait.
Me neither.
Thanks for the time. We really appreciate it, and, go
You're welcome. Thank you.